Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed now to send requested purchase to be online. Thank you. Proceed
Hello. So please to here is my here in overview way to start the database. First of all, is a good morning all. Greetings to one and all joined here today. So it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to invite you all today here to celebrate the 11th Debian release. So first of all, since Debian is a community-driven operating system, a community-driven project, I would like to invite all the community members here today. It is because of the efforts put in by the community that such wonderful projects are realized. I welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Abbas Abhinav, a free software lover, a free software enthusiast. So do check out libretech.shop. I welcome our director, Dr. Elizabeth Shirley. A special welcome to the members from community, namely Bodish Thomas, a full stack developer from Pupil First. Mohammad Sadiq, a free software developer from Purism. Shyam Kumar, a security advisor. Rakesh from FSUG Trivandrum. Pramod from Kerala Cyberdome. And Akshay Dinesh from Metasync Foundation. I welcome all the fossil members. I welcome all the IC4's delegates and all my fellow colleagues. Thank you all for showing interest in our event today. Try to be present throughout the event. We have planned some interesting and interactive sessions for every one of you. So once again, I welcome everyone and enjoy the event.
Now it's time for the official inauguration of the event. For that, I would like to invite our beloved director, Dr. Elizabeth Shirley, and requesting Madam to officially inaugurate the event and speak a few words.
Hello, yeah, I am audible. And respected Mr. Abbas Abhinav and all other. Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Audible now.
Okay, so distinguished guest, and also one of our prominent force evangelist, Mr. Abhinav, Abbas Abhinav, and all other dignitaries present here, and all the force community. So I am very happy to know about the new release of Debian Builds release 11 on 14th of August, and subsequently we have arranged an interaction meeting with the developers community as well as the all the force community. So I would rather very happy that new operating systems by the force community for the developers side has come up. And in this talk, I just wanted to emphasize a few points only, because today there are a number of voices, whether it is in the open source community or from the proprietary item. So this all, it works with the kernel functions, and where it controls the data, and also it will be updated with its memory, and handles lot of files, system files and all, and interacted with the devices also. But now, as we live in a in a world where we have increased collaborations between humans and smart systems, and also that AI is one of the mainstream today, and this I'm just envisaging the new AIs, a new OS, where the force community can more concentrate on into that, maybe with an AI driven OS, because AI is still in the mainstream, and which has got more of cognitive as well as critical thinking skills, like a human has got. So this is something very important, because why do you want to have an OS which has got the same functions of the other OS? Can we thinking something having a different different thought processing, where we have an assistive system based on OS, assistive system based OS, where Divyang people can also use OS without other support. I'm just envisaging it as an assistive, Debian OS for a visually impaired, and there it can support some of their devices. The utility manager has to control all accessibility options, reads what it displayed it on the screen, and also some on-screen keyboard support, needs to use a pointing device rather than a keyboard to type, and something like as a more intelligent features into this, because this is what we need it for today or tomorrow, and more of virtual assistant and voice assistant support that can be incorporated into this new OS. So these basic features and kernel supports enable the build systems without much hassles, and are important, where we can, if you wanted to build something more on this assistive systems, assistive technology, so without much hassle, they'll be able to develop it, and this will become a universal de facto or a standardized format that can be built in that. I don't know what exactly this new release of Debian Bullseye 11 has got, but I'm happy to know that Mr. Abbas Abhinay is delivering the keynote address today, and full stack developer Bodhish Thomas is here, and also some of the other dignitaries like developers community, Mohammad Sadiq and Mr. Shyam Kumar and Ragesh. They are also joining for the interaction. I hope that this will be a very good interactions, and much of get it in this force to the force community developers. So I wish more features in the coming release of Debian OS, and that can benefit not only the community but also the entire society. That release can also come soon. So thank you very much, the organizers, and wish you all the best. And at this outset, I welcome the Debian Bullseye release and its interaction sessions today with the help of IC Force. Thank you very much. I inaugurate the 100 sessions.
Thank you for your words, madam. Thank you for inaugurating the event too. Our first session for the day is the keynote speech by Mr. Abbas Abhinay. Mr. Abbas Abhinay is a free software activist, hacker, and an entrepreneur specializing in free software and liberated hardware. He has been actively involved in free software domains for more than 20 years. He is the member, Board of Directors of Free Software Foundation of India, and also a member at National Resource Center for Force at AUKBC. He is the founder of Deeproot GNU Linux and also Mostly Handlers Private Limited, both based in Bangalore, which provides services, support, hosting and solutions for free, libre and open source software. On behalf of IC4 and all of you present here, I would like to invite Mr. Abbas to the Debian release party and requesting him to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, Abbas.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. If you can make me the presenter, I'll upload the slides. Can you make me the presenter? Kailash? All right. So while we shift the presenter, good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to participate here and share this occasion of the Debian release with all of you. I understand that a lot of people who are attending are students, and what I'm going to be talking about is aimed at students and a lot of young people who are just getting started with GNU Linux, and who might be curious about why it's worth getting involved, or what does it mean to be involved, and so on. So let me just get started in a moment. All right. So what I'll be talking about is I'll try to give a small introduction to what is free and libre software, and I trying to present a case about why it should matter to you and how to choose a free life. I'll just put on my video as well. Yeah. So so the intention is to make an appeal to everyone and to give them an argument that will work for them about why free software can matter to them. And if it does matter to them, then how can we help everyone choose a free life? Today we know it's the Debian release. Debian, I'll spend a moment explaining what is Debian and why a Debian release is important, and what role Debian has to play in the community. So Debian is called the universal operating system. It's a free, libre, open source operating system based on GNU Linux, though it also works with other kernels other than Linux and other than GNU as well, for that matter. But Debian is universal in the sense that it runs on almost all types of devices. It runs on mobile phones, it runs on servers, it runs on desktops, embedded systems, and there are so many other distributions which are derived from Debian. So for example, Ubuntu is derived from Debian, Ambien is derived from Debian, and other variants of Ubuntu are also derived from Debian. Generally, people find Debian to be a very stable operating system. Its stability comes from multiple factors. One aspect is the process of making releases, how packages are chosen, how they are qualified to be stable enough to be released as a part of the stable version of Debian. The other thing is that Debian has a very strong social contract, and that social contract was published at the very onset of when Debian started up. And Debian is very clear about which packages go into the operating system, what the licenses should be, how they should integrate and interact with other packages. And that strong adherence to that social contract, to their philosophy about free software, is what makes Debian rather unique, because Debian does not compromise on these principles. And in a way, Debian the main distribution of the operating system, can be a gold standard for what qualifies as free software a lot of times. So, before we sort of launch into a discussion on what is free software, how to get involved and why it's worth getting involved, I would in fact request anyone who wants to speak up, you can join in the microphone mode and you could unmute yourself. And if you want to share some of your experiences with regards to using or promoting free software, let's say you tried to use GNU Linux or you've tried to use Debian, but maybe you had some problems and you gave up. Maybe if you want to speak about that experience for a minute or so, I'm sure everyone would want to hear that. On the other hand, if you have been able to overcome certain hurdles and you've been able to migrate, or you've been using free software for a long time, I'm sure everyone else would want to hear about that success story as well. What is it that enabled you, or what kept you going, and what problems you had to overcome to keep going. So if anybody wants to do that, we'll all want to hear from what you have to say. Please feel free to speak anything that you want to speak. Even during the session, if you want to ask a question, you can ask it in the public chat, or you could even unmute and ask yourself. It's completely up to you, but please, feel free to talk and speak up. You're among friends, and you should just feel free to talk if there's something that you want to share. So does anybody want to share a story about their experience with Debian specifically, or with free software in general? You can just unmute and start speaking. You don't need to enable your video or anything at all. No, maybe at the end of the event we could have a small interactive session where people get to share their stories. So let's carry on now. So let me ask a simple question. How many of you like to do things on your own, with your own hands? And what sort of things am I talking about? Well, perhaps you like to cook or paint, or you like to build your own furniture, or maybe you like to repair your own plumbing, or you repair your own furniture, or you assemble your own computers or electronic products, or you stitch your own clothes. I mean, there are so many things that we need to do to lead our lives. A lot of us like to do those things on our own. A lot of times we are not able to do those things on our own, and hence we take help from others to do those things. But I'm trying to focus on this aspect of doing things on our own with our own hands. What is it that motivates us? Why do we choose to do these activities? And if we choose to do something, for example, if I choose to repair my own vehicle, how do I learn to do that? And then the next obvious question is, what keeps me at it? I could try to do something and I might not succeed and I could give up. If I don't want to give up, if I want to keep at it, what is it that will keep me going, right? So if I had to give up, then what might be a reason that I give up? Is it because I think it's not worth doing, or is it because it's very challenging, or it's tough and I don't have the opportunities or the resources to learn about something? I want you to think about these questions. Maybe we will not have an occasion to interact and discuss these questions or some of the answers that you might have in your mind, but please introspect on these. If you choose to do these activities, why did you choose to do them? Let's ponder a little bit on the why aspect. If I choose to build my own furniture, or if I choose to build my own computers, or cook my own food, is it that I'm trying to control the process and the outcome? So, of course, I can tell someone exactly the type of food I want to have, but is it better that I do it myself so that I can control the process and the outcome? Is that the reason I want to do things myself? Is it because it's fun? It's not always the outcome that's enjoyable. It's also the process of arriving at the outcome which is equally enjoyable. And a lot of times we do choose to do these things because they're fun. Maybe we want to learn, and learning itself is a goal for us. Not just that we want to cook something, or we want to build our own table, or we want to plant our own food, or whatever it is. Maybe we just want to learn to do it, or we want to see what it takes to do it, right? Another reason could be that we don't want to depend on others. We want to be independent. We want to be free. And if we really want to be free on a sustainable basis, then one way is to take control of those things which affect us, right? Then we don't have to depend on others, and we are self-sufficient in a way. On the other hand, unless we are participating in the process of building something, we will not be able to make changes either to the process of building it, or to the to the outcome or to the end result. So a lot of times, if we wish that something was different, say a food dish tasted differently, or we wanted to check if it was possible to grow a plant in a different way, or build furniture in a different way, or build a computer in a different way, or get a software to do something differently. One way to know that for sure would be to do it ourselves, isn't it? We could tell others, but then we might not be able to describe what we are looking at, and then it would also be no fun if we were telling others to do it. So if we wanted to, get all these benefits of doing things ourselves, and even change how we do it or the outcome, this is one of the choices we have to make, right? But we are not always able to do these things. We might wish to do something, but we might not always succeed in doing it. And again, if you introspect, you might find some of these occasions in your experience. What are these barriers? What are the limits that stop us from having this sort of freedom, from being able to do things ourselves? Are there barriers to learning? Did someone stop us from learning? Did someone say, no, you're not supposed to know this, or you're just supposed to use this thing the way it's designed, and you don't deserve to build it yourself, and you don't deserve to figure out how it's built? Was that the barrier or the limit? If you've felt that you could learn freely, or rather, let me pose it in a different, did you feel that you could learn freely without constraints? And if you felt that you had some barrier to learning freely, what was that barrier? I think that is very important to figure out what that barrier was, because maybe we are choosing the wrong things. Everything cannot provide a lesson to us. Everything cannot help us learn. There are certain things which are optimized for our learning experience. Some things are not, right? So I think we should be very conscious about these barriers and limits. And if there is someone or some tool, or we don't have the opportunity or the means, we might have to make different decisions so that we can have the access or the tools or the opportunity or the means to learn and do things ourselves, right? So what if someone removed these barriers to learning, or to doing things to ourselves, or to having greater control on our lives and things that affect our lives? What if we had complete access to knowledge, and we had, at the same time, the access to knowledge itself doesn't mean anything if we don't have the opportunity or the means to learn from that body of knowledge? And that's not sufficient enough if we don't have the tools that we need to cultivate our skills. So all of these things go hand in hand. Just having the tools but not the opportunity doesn't enable us to learn. Having access to the knowledge and the tools but not the opportunity doesn't help us learn. So in a way, we need to have all these things available to us at the same time, and together they will enable us to learn and do things ourselves, right? So in a sense, of course, our discussion is not a general discussion. We are talking about these things in the realm of free software, and I'd like to explain next what free software is and what it means. But in brief, free and libre software is a framework and value system which enables these things. What are these things? Those things are the ability to have access to knowledge, the means to build skills, the opportunity and having the opportunity and the tools to use that knowledge to build skills, and to be a part of a community, to associate with others who might think like us, and who share the same ideology and value system, right? So if you have been able to connect with some things that you like to do, our discussion on software today is about the software we use, the services we use, and the computers where these things run, the software that we have where it runs. And it's not just about having control on that software, it's also about our ability to share that software and knowledge with others and to associate freely with others. So we'll discuss all these things. So what exactly is free software? Now, basically, I'd like to give you a formal definition so that we know how we are using this word and what it means. It's not a general term. The term is very narrow. It means something specific, and it's good to define what it means. A lot of times the word free can be confusing because in the English language it has multiple meanings. But the term is popular and it is well defined, and that's why I will want to define it quickly. So free software is software which provides us the freedom to use, study, redistribute, and modify the software for any purpose. And this freedom to do that is available to anyone, anywhere. Now, what do these freedoms mean? And what is the condition to having these freedoms? The freedom to use the software. It means that if a software is free software, if it is called free software, then it would give you the freedom to use that software for any purpose. You are not restricted from using it in just personal capacity or just for education or just for non-profit use or non-commercial use, or you're not prohibited from using it in government or defense or wherever else you might want to use it. The freedom to use a software is absolute. It's called freedom zero, and you should be able to do whatever you want with the software. You should be able to use it for any purpose. So it doesn't differentiate between your intention of using the software. It also doesn't distinguish between who you are and where you are situated. You could be in any country and any region, and nothing would actually inhibit you from using that software for whatever purpose you have in mind. The freedom to study the software. Now, how do you study the software? How do you study and learn about software? To study and learn about the software, one of the most important preconditions is having the access to the source code of that software. What is source code? Now, some of us who are programmers, we write software and then we compile the software, or we run it with a compiler or interpreter, and the software runs. So the thing that goes into the compiler is the source code. It's the recipe for the software. If we had to learn about how a software works, we need the recipe for it, and that is what source code means. If you had to repair your car, you would need some sort of a diagram which explained how the various components fit together. If you had to repair an electronic device, you might need the schematics. You might need to understand how various electronic components inside that electronic device connect and work with each other, right? So this source code is extremely important. Our ability to understand a system and our ability to study it and learn from it is defined by, and it is limited by, the availability of this source code. How would you know how to cook a dish if it did not have its recipe? Yes, you could try to reverse engineer the recipe. You could try to look at the end result and try to figure out what ingredients it has, how those ingredients were combined in the right way along the way to while it was being cooked to arrive at that end result. But if you had the recipe, that process would be simpler. You wouldn't have to spend so much time reverse engineering that dish, isn't it? So if you want the freedom to study something and learn from it, then you should have the source code for that thing. It could be software, it could be hardware, and it could be any other thing. But if software is distributed as free software under that label, it would provide this freedom to you, the freedom to study. The freedom to redistribute the software. A lot of times we hear in advertisements in newspapers or on television and elsewhere that if you have a piece of software, you should not copy it or you should not share it with others. That's true for certain software, but that's not true for all the software. It is especially not true for software which is distributed as free software. Free software explicitly gives you the permission to copy and redistribute the software. If you have a copy of Debian, you can make multiple copies of it and you can share it with all your friends and colleagues and people you know. There is no restriction on that, and you're actually encouraged to do it, so that if I have access to a resource, I can help others get access to that resource as well, and basically the resource spreads in the community in that way. Finally, if we have the source code to a piece of software and we are free to use it for whatever purpose, we should also be free to modify the source code, right? What does modification of source code mean? Modification means that if I get the source code or the recipe of a software, I can make some changes to it. I could make changes to learn and understand how that software works. I could make those changes because I want to fix something which might be a defect in that software, or I might want to enhance the software, and that is the reason why I'm making changes to it. But of course, if I don't have source code, I cannot make changes, right? So this precondition of the access to the corresponding source code under a free software, I think that precondition is very important. Without having source code, we can't modify, we can't learn, we can't do anything. And it's not just that we should be able to modify the software for our own needs, but we should also be permitted to redistribute the modified version of the software. So if you take the Debian operating system, you make changes to that, for whatever reason, you are allowed and you're actually encouraged to redistribute those changes as well. So you cannot, you don't just get the permission to redistribute Debian as you got it, but you also get the permission to make changes to that operating system and distribute that changed operating system as well. So these 4 freedoms are what comprise and define what free software is. Like I said, there are 2 free conditions for that. One condition is that you should have access to the corresponding source code. This word corresponding has a special meaning actually, but I will not go into it right now. In short, it means that if I have the source code, I should also have the recipe of how to compile that source code. I should also have a compiler, and the software depends on some other libraries and toolkits, and I should have those as well. So corresponding has a very very strict technical meaning here. And the second condition is the license. The license is the terms under which the software is made available to you, these terms. So if I have source code available under these terms, and these freedoms are what I get, and then that software is something that you can call free software. Like I said at the start, a lot of times people confuse the word free as meaning free of charge or gratis. The word free in this context talks about liberty, your freedom to do something, your freedom to study or use the software and so on. So there is a very interesting Wikipedia article if you want to study gratis versus libre. So you can read that to understand the distinction between the word free when we talk about it in the context of pricing, and free when we talk about it in the context of freedom or free speech or liberty. So that is the distinction. If you look at the GNU.org website or the opensource.org website, you will find very neatly spelled out definitions. So this definition that you see here is the free software definition, and this definition that you see here is called the open source definition. A lot of times you would have heard the term open source, and what is open source is defined by these 10 aspects here. Now these 10 aspects were actually derived from the 4 freedoms and this definition of free software. A group of people felt that they had to package these freedoms or this text about what those freedoms are into something which is easily understood, or maybe more easily understood by companies, by commercial developers and others, and basically they were able to repackage it into what is called the open source definition. But if you look and read closely, they in a sense talk about the same thing, though the open source definition doesn't talk about something ideological like freedom. It does talk about, in letter, it does talk about the same thing. So personally, I choose to use the word free software because it's an occasion to explain the value of having software freedom. It's the value of having freedom in the technology that I use for my personal life, for my work, for my business, and so on. Also, I feel personally that open source as a term is extremely diluted right now. It is often used to mean things that will not even qualify the open source definition. And hence, if I use it, or if everyone uses it, now you and I might know what the open source definition is, we might know what we're talking about, but somebody else might not know that. And that is a problem with the word open source, I feel. And hence, personally, I use free/libre software to to get the discussion back to these freedoms and to this ideology, because our association with free software is not just at a technical level or at a pragmatic or practical level, it is also at an ideological level. And in a way, that ideology is what helps us sustain our association. It enables it, it sustains it, there are long-term rewards in that, right? So we've looked at what is free software. We've looked at, some of the aspects of why, we want to do things ourselves. I want to go a little bit deeper into the why aspect, because if I'm trying to appeal to you that, look, use free software because of these ideological reasons, I still want to give you another reason, especially if you're a student. These arguments might make a lot of sense to you. So what I'm talking about, the why aspect, why free software, why should we care, why should we get involved, why should we associate with the free software community? It's because the freedom to study things and build things and fail at doing those things or rebuilding those things or misusing those things and fixing things, that freedom is very critical to learning. And if what we are trying to do is enhance our learning experience, if what we're trying to do always is to have the maximum learning opportunities because they will enable us to do something, then we need to make certain choices. We cannot choose a black box and expect that black box to teach something to us, right? So the question I want you to think about among yourself is, how will you, if you had to increase your stake in your own learning experience, how would you do that? What choices would you have to make so that you could fail regularly, consistently, and well, right? And the reason I specifically use this argument to younger people and to students is because a lot of times we take our learning for granted, or we might be satisfied with what is taught to us, and we might not seek learning opportunities ourselves. And that makes it difficult for people to choose free software and to stay with that choice a lot of times, because one reason you might want to choose free software is because you want to learn and do a lot of things. And if that's not your focus in life, then that choice might not be an obvious or even a reasonable choice, right? So what I'm asking you to think about is how you can gift these variety of experiences to yourself and how you can challenge yourself. And I'd like to lay out a roadmap for doing that. Because my point is that we can only fail at doing something if we make an attempt at doing something. But for doing something, we should also have the means, the opportunity, and the skills and the tools. If we are not able to have the opportunity to learn something, and what gives us that opportunity? Well, if I can see through something, if I can look at the source code for something, if I can change that source code, that whole process enables me to learn. It enables me to fail at doing something. But if I don't have that means or the opportunity or the skill or the tool, then that also limits my learning, because failure and learning do go hand in hand. And that's what that's the point I'm trying to make. That if you've tried to use Debian or you've tried to use some other free software operating system, and maybe you failed at something, or maybe you couldn't get something to work to your satisfaction, or you felt something was a little bit difficult and so on, you might think that's a failure, but that is also an opportunity to learn. If you learned something, it will get you past that failure. And then you won't have to give up on this choice of trying to use a free software operating system. And it's also that if you put your, if you really put your heart into it, the learning that you would get would be a reward in itself. And then you would seek those challenges out because you want to learn so much. I'm not saying that free software is essentially difficult to use and hence there is a lot to learn. I'm actually, changing that statement. I'm reversing that statement completely. I'm saying that if you wanted to learn a lot, then one choice you could make, or I think you should make, is the choice of choosing free software, right? So what is it that gives us the opportunity to learn and challenge ourselves? And that's, I'd like to outline some of those things that gives us the opportunity. The first and foremost thing is that we have to make the right choices. We cannot, like I said earlier, we cannot choose a black box and expect that black box to teach us something. If you want to understand how your phone boots up, maybe you should have the ability to put your own operating system on that phone and see and influence that process of how it boots up, right? If you want to understand how Big Blue Button is working, how our video and audio is getting mixed and how it is getting recorded and streamed and so on, if that's what we want to understand and learn, well, we have to go behind the scenes, right? It might be complex. It might require us to have a lot of primary understanding of technology before we can understand these things, but there is a roadmap there. But then we cannot choose a proprietary service for which there is no source code available, or where we don't have the opportunity to study and understand how it works. We cannot choose something like that and expect that it would give us the freedom to learn and do things. That's not a consistent choice, right? So let us first reflect and review, reflect on and review our choices. Without doing that, we will not be able to maximize our learning opportunities, right? So how do we do that? Well, the first thing is choose mindfully. Unless we make our technical choices mindfully, we will gradually eliminate all our learning opportunities, all the opportunities that we might have to do things ourselves, right? So it's critical for us to remind ourselves that, look, what are we out for? We are out to optimize our lives for freedom and learning. And if that is what we want, then we have to make mindful choices. What do I mean by mindful choices? I'm talking about our process of choosing our operating systems, our editors, browsers, our email services, what games we play, how we write documentation, where we host our pictures and photos, how we write essays and blogs, what social networking systems we participate in. Each of these things requires mindful choices. And the reason I'm talking about, I'm using this word mindful repeatedly, is because we don't often make choices because they maximize our learning opportunities. We often make a choice based on what's popular or what everyone uses. If everyone uses a certain messaging tool or certain video calling system, then we want to be a part of it. I understand that reasoning, why you would want to be a part of it. But there might be side effects of being part of that. Well, you might not be able to learn what you want to learn. If you feel that the operators of that service spy on you, then you might not be able to change that, because you have no ability to run that software on your own or in your own way, or in a way that eliminates the ability of a third party to spy on you or to listen on your conversations. So there are side effects of every choice we make. If we want the right side effect, which is we want to have our freedom to learn and do things ourselves, and we want to eliminate things that interfere with that freedom, then we have to make mindful choices. Our choice of operating system is not going to happen automatically. One day it will, but today you might get a lot of devices, phones, computers, servers, which have operating systems which are not free, free software. And those operating systems, you don't know what's really happening inside them. You don't know how they work. You cannot understand how they work at times even. You cannot change how they work. And if you feel there is something wrong in how they work, you can't change that or fix it either, right? So think about your choices and make them mindfully with that singular goal of being free to learn and do things. Secondly, choose self-hosting. What is self-hosting? A long time ago, we used all the software that we would use would run on computers that we controlled, right? We would download the software and we would run it on our computers. Today, a lot of software that we use does not run on our computers. It runs on somebody else's computer. We often call that computer the cloud because we don't know where it is. It's somewhere out there. It provides a service to us, or it provides a substitute. The service provides a substitute of the software that we would typically download and use. For example, I've seen very young people use such tools for designing posters. Well, they could install LibreOffice or Inkscape on their computers to make those posters, but often they resort to using online tools for doing that. So that I mean, I don't understand the reasoning. I have never done that. But that's a very, very primitive way of looking at self-hosting. Can you run the software that you need to use on your own, on a computer that you control? It could be a laptop, your desktop. It could be a single board computer like the Raspberry Pi. It could be a computer in your lab, your office. But that should be inside. That should be in your control. You should have the freedom to access that computer and to study it and to change it. So, so make this choice. Now, what does making this choice involve? You might say, look, I don't know how to install software. I don't know how to download software. I don't know which software I should install or download. Or I want to run my own messaging service, but if I read the steps that it takes to run my own messaging service or my own video calling service, the steps are too intimidating. Well, I want you to look at it from two perspectives. Number one, at least you have access to those steps. At least you have the opportunity and the means to do those things, to make that choice. You might feel you don't have the skills to do it, but I think if we keep depending upon the skills to emerge, we will never do anything. So if we thought that we will only do swimming, if we know swimming, then we will never be able to learn swimming, because the only way to learn swimming is to jump into the water. How many of us have learned to swim by watching videos on our computers or phones? I don't think any of us can learn swimming like that. The test of riding a bicycle is riding it, right? So even though setting up something for yourself or hosting it for yourself sounds intimidating and it looks complex and you might not have all the skills or knowledge that you might need to do it, you have the opportunity to learn those skills. You have the opportunity to acquire those tools and resources. And that is unprecedented. You would not get those opportunities. If you talk to one of the biggest email providers and tell them, look, I don't want to use my email from your computers. Can you give me the source code of your email system so that I can run it on my own computer? Will they do that? I don't think they will do that, because that's how they work. Their goal is not to let everyone run their own email service, right? They want to provide a service of email to you, and in exchange, they might charge you and do other things. So with free software, you have this unique opportunity to self-host. Of course, you can also self-host proprietary software. But today, the problem is we are not choosing to host things ourselves, whether it's with proprietary software or with free software. And hence, the first thing I'm talking about is self-hosting, and then I will talk about how you choose what to self-host. So I'll set a small goal for you. Can you set up your own network? Can you set up your own desktop, your own wireless network, your own email system, your own system which enables you to share files and communicate with others? Can you decide that over a period of time, everything that you need, you will build it yourself? And at least and then there could be others who don't want to build it themselves, but who do want the value that you get out of the freedom that you have. And then you could build it for others as well, right? You could maintain it you could build that system for others, you could maintain it for them, you could show them how to do simple things so that they can do at least those number of things themselves. You could do that as well, and that's how free software spreads. That's how these concepts of self-hosting become more mainstream, right? And then of course, our discussion is very narrow. We're not just saying choose for self-hosting with any sort of software. We're saying choose self-hosting with free software. In all situations, choose free software. I personally don't think there should be exceptions to that rule. You might be forced to not choose free software in certain situations, and today there are quite a few situations like that. I understand that, and it might not be possible to live our lives using free software completely. However, it's about what ideals we have in our minds, whether what is the reason we are making these compromises, and what is the level of compromise and what sort of impact it has. Nevertheless, don't let short-term compromise affect your ability to, or the opportunity to learn and do things. Yes, it might be very fashionable and it might be very simple to go to an online tool, a proprietary tool, and use that to design your poster. But then you might not learn so much out of doing that. And so my point is that convenience is very short-term in nature. if we spend a little bit more effort, if we motivate ourselves and others around us a little bit more, maybe we will choose free software, and that will help us. So what sort of tools am I talking about? So I've mentioned this earlier as well, but I've categorized this into two parts, software and the services. A lot of times it's not just the software that's important, it's also the service that the software provides, and hence I make a clear distinction among these. So when you're choosing to self-host these things, choose to do it using free software. And then if you want a list of things that you should self-host using free software, well, here's a list. What is the point of having freedom if we don't use it, right? Choosing to do things myself is a way to test if I'm actually free to do something, right? We might not be free to do something because, well, the knowledge is not easily accessible, or we don't have the means to do it or the opportunity to do it, right? Choosing to do things ourselves sometimes is a test whether that body of knowledge is really free or not, whether that we all have equitable access to that body of knowledge or not, whether we have equitable opportunity to use that knowledge once we gain it for our own benefit and for the benefit of people around us. Often we feel that we don't know something, so we can't do something, and we let the skills or the knowledge that we have limit our capacity to do something. I think the converse is true. We shouldn't wait for the skills and knowledge to arrive. Starting to do something is a necessary condition for the knowledge and the skills to come up. If we wait for that, we will never do anything. So my point, so the reason I'm highlighting this separately is because a lot of times we might get others to do things for us, which is fine. Every one of us doesn't need to be a technical person or a programmer or a system administrator and so on. But if there are things that we can learn to do ourselves, they will put us in control. They will help us realize the value of the freedom that we have. And then maybe it will be more difficult for us to let go of that freedom. And, we will cherish it a lot more. So I think the ability to cherish and value that freedom, I think one of the things that enables that is our ability to use that freedom for our own benefit, to do things ourselves. Okay, let's go ahead. A lot of times, when we are in a hurry to do things, we take shortcuts, we make compromises. Let's say we have to submit an assignment, and let's say I decided I'm going to use LaTeX to write it, but I don't know LaTeX, and I had intended to learn enough to write that assignment before I submit it. But now I don't have sufficient time to learn and do it, so I might be tempted to take a shortcut. I can understand that emotion. We all procrastinate a lot of times. However, if that's all what we are doing, we are compromising again and again because we want to deliver something quickly. We will never take the time out to learn something. We are optimizing for delivering. We're not optimizing for learning. And one of the first things we discussed was that, look, we want to optimize our lives for learning and doing things ourselves, and we want to retain that freedom to make these choices. So, well, I think in this case, optimizing for delivery is our enemy. It will not enable us to use free software. It will not enable us to get prepared so that we can run, free software for everything that we do. And I will actually go a step further. I will say, if you know one way of doing it yourself, well, why not figure out 5 different ways of doing it yourself? So if you know one way of writing documentation or managing your project or submission, well, learn at least 2 or 3 more ways of doing the same thing, because when you broaden your exposure to these things, there is so much more to learn. You might come up with, you might discover so many new tricks, so many new ways of doing something. So, well, my point is try to optimize on the learning process, not just on the delivery. What about optimizing for happiness? I am happy when I do things myself. I'm also happy when I can get the computer to do things for me so that I don't have to do it myself. But what is enjoyable is the process of getting the computer to do something, because, well, essentially the computer is dumb, and if it has to do something on my behalf, then I have to program it or script it or automate it, and then that is fun as well. So maybe that thing that I need to do, I want to log into a server to check if everything is fine. It might take me 30 seconds to do that, but if I wrote a program to do it and that took me 4 hours, that 4 hours is also an enjoyable process. It enables me to learn so much more. It just gives me, forget about learning, it just gives me happiness to spend 4 hours getting the computer to do something which I might take 30 seconds to do. So, well, my point is that in a way, opening our minds to how free software works and to having freedom respecting software in our lives, that is another way to optimize our lives for happiness. If we really come to respect the process of doing things, choosing free software is one way to go there. And this is another way of saying choose self-hosting, but I have to mention it again, reject the cloud. This is how a lot of proprietary software creeps into our lives. A lot of times it's unknowingly, and then we get logged in, we get stuck with that tool or with that system because now we are so vested in it that we can't leave it. So my point is choose self-hosting, at the same time reject software which is running on somebody else's computer. Even though it might sound like an attractive choice to make, it is not what you are optimizing for. That's how I'll put it. And finally, when you share what you've built, either the end result of say you're building software and you share your software, or you share, or well, the software is out there and you have uniquely combined some tools to achieve something, or you figured out how to do something. So, well, you can document that process of doing something and help others do it as well. The point is there are multiple things like that. So if you have done something, you should be able to share what you've built, and that enables you to be a part of a community as well. That enables you to be a part of a group where people share similar goals. Though that's not a ticket to be a part. I'm not saying that unless you share, you don't get to be a part of a community. That's a wrong notion. I'm just saying that it's fun to share what you've built. It's fun to let others know and inspire others by your own example of doing something. So to summarize, what I was saying, choose free software because freedom matters. And if you want to discuss aspects of why freedom matters, we can discuss that interactively. Please feel free to ask questions. Secondly, one of the most important parts of choosing free software today is also choosing what hardware we use, because unless we choose the right hardware, we will not have the opportunity to run free software on it or our own software on it, and that's a problem. So we cannot choose the so-called smart TV and expect that it doesn't track us and expect that we will be able to run our own software in it and so on. No, it doesn't work like that. We have to choose the right television which might actually have the ability to let us run our own software. Don't feel isolated in your journey to get engaged with free software. Don't give up. There is a very wide free software community. There are so many people here in this room right now who are very active contributors to Debian, to so many other projects. And in a way, we all share and care about free software. We all share this love of being able to do these things on our own, to have this control in our lives, to have this freedom in the long run. And we all have each other to support and depend on. So please don't feel alone, and don't give up because you feel you're alone or you're doing something and there are not many others doing it. So don't do that. Thank you so much. And like I said, if you have questions, please feel free to ask in the chat, or you could also unmute yourself and ask the questions verbally. My various ways of contacting me are listed here in case you want to get in touch. But that's what I had to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abbas. Thank you for your informative talk. I'm sure this speech will enlighten all the students over here, and we expect that they will spread the word. For all the participants, you may please ask your questions if any.
In case you have a counter perspective also, please feel free to share that. You don't have to agree with whatever we are saying here. So whatever it is, don't think about it. Please share it if there's something you want to discuss.
I request all the participants to unmute your mic and ask your questions or anything related to the talk just happened.
Hi, boss. This is Sampath here.
Yeah.
Could you like to give some highlights on Debian or any contribution or your user space over there?
Sure. So I have been using Debian since about 2001. So there are a lot of things which are very unique about Debian. Like someone said at the introduction, Debian is a very large community developed operating system, which means that there is not a single entity, a corporate entity or a commercial entity which is building it. The work is voluntarily done by a lot of developers all over the world. They contribute their time. A lot of developers under Debian are also paid to work on Debian, but the legal entity which controls Debian is a non-profit called Software in Public Interest, SPI. And they control the Debian trademarks, and in a way they have some, they control the project, but the project is guided by the project leader, who is democratically elected by the group of Debian developers. What's also unique about Debian is the process by which decisions are made. Decision making is very democratic. They have votes on major decisions. The decisions are not just taken because they might have people who are doing the development have a specific opinion. The decisions are made in a reasonable manner, I feel. And it's also one of the largest distribution in the sense that almost every piece of free software that you might need or that you might find useful for your day-to-day use, whether it's on the desktop or the server, you would find that software packaged already and available on Debian. So you can just install it. Debian also supports a very wide variety of CPU architectures. So whether it's 32-bit ARM or 62-bit ARM architecture or 32-bit, they're still publishing 32-bit Intel images and packages for older computers. You have 64-bit. You also have packages for, I think they still maintain packages for the mainframe. So there are multiple architectures like that that Debian packages software for, and which basically means that no matter what type of system you're working with, you will be able to have the same experience in terms of your familiarity to the packages, to the configuration system, and so on. Debian also makes a lot of changes to certain software to eliminate non-free features and so on. So when you install the software from the Debian repository, you can be assured that the Debian developers have done their due to give you software which is free from trackers, which is completely free software as defined by the free software definition, and those guarantees have survived for a very long time, more than 25 years. So, which is also why a lot of other distributions choose Debian as a base, because Debian has very high quality packages, and instead of sort of trying to reinvent the wheel, it's easier to add a value on top of Debian. That's how a lot of distributions get started. One of the most important features of Debian today, I think, is also something called reproducible builds. A reproducible build basically means that if you take a piece of source code and you take the build scripts and you use these build scripts to compile and package the software, and you do it multiple times on multiple computers, the end result, the binary package, the Debian package, will be exactly the same, irrespective of who runs it and when they run it or where they run it. Today, a great part of the operating system is reproducible, which means that if something is creeping into the software, maybe bugs or trackers or something non-free, you will always be able to reproduce the issue. You will always be able to fix and test whether the fix has really worked. And reproducibility is also a way of building trust. How do you trust Debian as an OS? Well, you can see what's happening. The packages are not secretly built and then uploaded somewhere and you just download and use it. The entire packaging system is transparent and open to you to observe and to participate in as well. Incidentally, Debian has a lot of, Debian operating system is completely translated into a lot of Indian languages as well. And if you choose to use your OS in one of those languages, then you just have to change your locale on the OS and you would be able to do that. I forget which are the ones which are completely supported right now. I'm sure somebody else might have those details. I think Malayalam is one of the languages which has some of the highest coverage in terms of translation and localization.
Thank you, Akash.
Thank you for the question, sir.
There's a question from someone, they're asking, what if we want to build a public platform where too many computer resources are involved? How do I achieve such an architecture in open source? So there are two ways of looking at it. Number one, one thing you highlight is that you'll have to depend on hardware resources to run this public platform. That's true. And you don't want to use hardware or resources provided by various service providers like AWS, GCP, and so on. Well, think of it like this. As long as my view is this: if you have to build a large public platform where the resource requirement is very high, first of all, the first choice that would influence the outcome is what tools you're using. If you have to build a database cluster, are you using the database as a service or are you building your own cluster? If you have to use a cache, are you building the cache yourselves or are you using the cache as a service provided by an organization like some of those that you mentioned here? So I feel that at one step, if you are building things on your own with free software, you will always have control on how those things work together. And then where you host these, where you host this platform is not that it's not that important. You could host it on AWS today, you could take it to some other service provider tomorrow, and it will run exactly the same, because there is nothing unique from the service provider that you're using as an integral part of your public platform. Everything that you're using or combining to be a part of that platform is built by you, and hence you are completely free to run it in the way you want. And tomorrow, if you wanted to shift your service provider, you could do that. You're not logged in to the one that you are starting with. So you could start with a few computers in your office or home, and then you might outgrow the bandwidth or the computers that you have. You might shift to one of the service providers which are accessible to you, and then you might find that they are not able to provide things that you need, maybe at the correct price, or so on, and you can move it to yet another service provider. What I'm trying to say is that this ability to make such shifts or make such choices, that ability should be there with you. You should not get logged in. And one way to not get logged in is to not use something which is unique or which is specifically provided by the service provider. That's a very easy way to get logged in. When you want to build a database cluster, it might be very tempting to use a service provided by the service provider, but that's the way you get logged in. So don't make those choices. And I think if you don't make such choices which lock you in, you will always be in control, not the service provider. So you can then use any service provider for your purpose. Anything that offers you the right cost, the right performance, all those things at the same time.
Thank you, Abbas. I think there are no more questions. Thank you for joining us today, Abbas, and I request your presence till the end of the event as we have an interactive session later. So to add more sweetness to the party, we have arranged a cake here to share our happiness. I would like to request Sri Kumar, Secretary Registrar of IC Force, Dr. Rajiv, Program Head of IC Force, Srinivasan, Program Head of IC Force, to join us for the cake cutting ceremony. I request all the participants to be online for next, and we are about to begin our interactive session soon. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Next is an interactive session with free software developers and enthusiasts. They'll share their experience and their journey with free software, and I'm sure it will inspire all the participants to learn more about community projects and to help start contributing to free software. First, we have with us Mr. Bodhish Thomas, full stack developer from Pupil First. Mr. Bodhish is the Chief Technical Architect for Corona Safe Network. He has been driving open source community initiatives that help touch people in need, starting with After Flood. He went on ideating, architecting, and building tools like CARE, Life Resources, which brought together more than 200 academic. Bodhish has been an integral part of many learning initiatives in the Indian tech space and is currently a mentor for the Corona Safe Engineering Fellowship. Bodhish is also a full stack developer building an open source learning management system for cohort-based courses at Pupil First. On behalf of all of you present here, I would like to invite Mr. Bodhish to Debian release party organized by IC4s. Over to you, Bodhish.
Thank you. Yeah, so our experience building an open source tool was very resembling to the talk that Abbas had given now. So initially we started out as like student developers trying to learn a lot. I mean, I was from an electronics and communication background, so computer science was a new field for me. So while in college, tried to dig around and like try to assemble stuff and try to figure out like if I could like use multiple tools to integrate stuff and like build products out of it. And it was a very interesting learning opportunity. And I got interacted with a lot of community members, and then got connected to multiple people, and together with the data available on the internet and the people and the community, we got a vision to like actually work with people on community-driven projects, and that's how we started development. And currently, during the last pandemic, the current pandemic, we got an opportunity to build a tool that could be used for hospital, patient, and data management in the country. So it started as an experiment in Ernakulam to see if we could connect all the private and public hospitals together into a single network where they could share data with the district administration and they could manage patients uniquely. So we were trying to create a patient experience where anyone getting positive with COVID could be managed end to end, from the time they're getting positive to the time they get a digital discharge summary. So all of it was created.
Okay, you pack it out, but I can give
Hello?
it.
Sorry. Yeah. So that's how we started. So we started it like 70 weeks back. It's 75 weeks back. And back at the time, I wasn't even confident like if we'll get developers to work with us on a tool for public good. So it started as a smaller repository with few of my friends in Kerala, and the growth was humongous. So over time, a lot of people joined in, a lot of people from the community in Kerala and abroad joined in and pitched their time to develop goods, the digital public good. So it's running in Ernakulam for the last 75 weeks, and after the second wave, it got a lot of recognition, and currently it's deployed in multiple states. So how we see the development of tools like this, with the experience, we very different learning. So we never knew that tools like this could be created and it could be used in multiple states. Like when we were trying to do it, it was only for Kerala and it was for one district. We never thought like it could be used throughout the country for multiple purposes. And eventually the tool got recognized by UN and they nominated it to the Digital Public Goods Standard. So it's currently one of the recommended DGP nominee. So DGP is a Digital Public Goods Standard set in by United Nations for sustainable growth and development. So what we want to share here is that all the developers who are like aspiring to learn and come to the open source community. So the one good pathway is to pick an open source repository and pick up the issues that needs help. So in all the GitHub, all the source management control tools, there are tags that mentions which all are the issues that are open for developers to contribute to. Set up their base repository, try tinkering with their documentation, see if there is something missing on the installation steps, try to contribute back, and then see if you could pick up issues. I mean, pick any language of your choice, any framework of your choice. There will be a lot of issues. I mean, repositories available on the internet where you could find and contribute to. So this way, you could build open source tools. And if you also have like random ideas where you think it will be helpful for people, try to make it a digital public good. Digital public good in meaning it should be in line with the relevance of the sustainable development goals. It should have a very good open source license which will be free to use for everyone. It should have clear ownerships, like is it some community monitoring it, or like is it a doing it. And it should be platform independent. That means it should not be locked to one cloud service provider. It should be platform agnostic. So it could be deployed on a local server or AWS or any other service provider. And also document it well so that people could use it. So these are the few things that you should think about while you're developing it. But more on the lines of start by contributing to an open source repository, and it'll be a great start. Yeah, that's it from my side as an introduction.
Thank you, Bodhish. Next, we have with us Mr. Akshay S. Dinesh. I'd like to request him to share his experience. Akshay is a doctor and a tech enthusiast, thinker, coder, blogger, and whatnot. He works towards digital rights and also a free software advocate. He previously worked with Mozilla, Infinity Plus Beyond, PCHM, Restore Health Bangalore, MetaString Foundation, Jiva Raksha Trust, Institute of Public Health, and now working with Swatantra Malayalam Computing too. Welcome Akshay, welcome to the Debian release party. Over to you.
Hi, I'll just make very brief this thing. So I like I was introduced, I am a doctor, but I work with free software because free software is very important for the society, especially when it comes to public health, and the philosophies of free software are very important. So there is a vibrant community of free software in India and in Kerala. I'll only say that you're all welcome to join all these communities. All of them are very welcoming to new people, young people, old people, I mean any kind of people, but whoever wants to start contributing or wants to continue contributing. So I'll be happy to interact in the chat. Thanks.
And we have with us Mr. Mohammed Sadiq. He is a free software developer currently working with Purism. He is associated with IC4 previously in developing an on-screen Malayalam keyboard and related activities too. Welcome Sadiq, welcome to the Debian release party.
Thank you for having me. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
We can speak.
Okay. So let me brief. I'm Mohammad Sadiq. I'm a free software developer, mostly GNOME developer. I've been contributing to GNOME for the past 4 to 5 years. I started just as a translator. I was just SMC member and I began translating for something around 10 years back. And since then, I tried contributing to GNOME, but nothing materialized. And eventually, I'm a person of complaining a lot, so I just decided to complain about the software issues I find, and I find a lot of bugs. And eventually, I tried fixing some of them and started writing code. And eventually, I got a job, a free software job in Purism, a US-based company who is creating free hardware, completely free hardware. Currently, I am on the mobile phone stack developer, a phone named Librem 5, which produces a completely free Debian-based operating system and fully free hardware device. I am currently maintaining the SMS and the chat application on the Librem 5 stack. Yeah, that's it.
We also have Mr. Pramod A from Kerala Police Cyberdown. Welcome sir, welcome to the Debian release party. I request you to share your experience with free software.
Thank you. And good morning to, I think, good afternoon to everybody. Actually, I am at present, I am working in Kerala Police Cyberdown. So I will let you, I have heard about the interaction by various speakers, and it was very good interaction. And what I learned is that all the enthusiasts or the technical and technological evangelists are actually contributing for the goodness of the society, for the welfare of the society. That's a very good good point of view, very good attitude. So in the present situation, what we are facing, I would let you know. One of the first concern about the what I am talking about, the complaints we are receiving on the daily basis. So in this COVID situation, one of the community which is very much in tension, or you can say very much concerned, is the parent community. So since it's COVID, and the parents are actually giving unlimited access to the children to learn it. They are learning it they are attending the online class. That's okay. But on the other time, what they are doing, the parents are not aware of it. Only after some problems arises, the parent become aware that such and such a thing is happening. So what happened is that just 1 week back, we get a requirement from ITH school, which in which they were actually telling is if there is software is available on your Ubuntu means Linux, for the Linux version which they are using. So my request to all the community members, free software IC4's community member, will be that in the present situation, the parents are the very much concerned about the website or the applications they are actually accessing. If some sort of solution can be found, it will be very beneficial to the society. That's my point of view. Which what I am saying is about the present situation. Maybe after the COVID scare is gone, this may not be the situation. But at present, all the parents are very much concerned about the sites the children are accessing. So in Ubuntu, through Ubuntu, we can, if we are through the Linux or the Debian Linux version, we are able to give a package through which the parents are able to see or to control it. Means the children are not able to view age inappropriate material, or that's what because the internet is same for everyone. If a 5-year-old child, a student studying in class 5th gets it, or somebody else get, the internet is same for everyone. The search will be the same, the Google search will be same, whatever is. But in the present situation, it's very important, and the parents are very much concerned about their mental health and about the sites they are accessing. So if through the Debian release we are able to provide them some solution, it will be very beneficial to the people, particularly to the the parent community. The second thing I would like to bring to your attention is the online financial fraud actually which is going on. So what I am from the Debian side, I am saying that if there are some what you say add-ons which can list the fake websites, the fake website database, because what happens these days that the fake website websites are hosted, and it is taken down after, say, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, again it is hosted and then taken off. The same website will be used in advertisement through Facebook, social media, Instagram, Facebook, and so that people actually go into that, and then they will show, say, a furniture which costs about 10,000 will be offered on 1,000 rupees, and they will lose their money. So these things are actually going on. So if our Debian release can provide some solution, so that it gives an alert that this site is fake, or this is likely to be fake, or something like that, it will be very beneficial to the public. Just when the public realize that so many people are actually working for the benefit of society, and it is helpful for them, the people will surely adopt it. I would like to know about your views also. What's your view?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your concern. I think, Akshay, if you could share your thoughts on this, it will be great.
Oh, sorry, I was in a flame war, so I didn't listen to the question about Emacs.
Another thing I would like to say that site. So one thing is that people can actually report it. That's one way. Or another is if some website is reported as fake on the police side. I'm not talking about only regarding Kerala police, but if any police in our country, we can, if we are able to give them a platform where they can report it or they can flag it, and these things can be actually can be used as an add-on on Debian browser, Debian release of Firefox or something, so that it give the people a flag that this website is fake or something like that. What I am telling is about what the people are actually facing these days regarding the parent account of software, regarding the online financial frauds that's going on. Okay, over to you.
True, right? I mean, that feature, safety feature is there in Firefox already. The way people include things in that list is an international thing, I suppose, in the sense in Indian states, when we have something we identify as a fake website or a phishing website, how do we add that to the list in the Firefox or in the Chromium browsers? That's a question we should think about. And and because it's free software can give us a chance for maintaining our own browsers, which will protect people from such fake sites. But then how do we distribute such versions that we maintain is also a question.
What about the parental control software? Anything is available at present in Debian?
What control?
Parental control. Parental control.
Abbas, maybe you were using.
Yeah, so there is another perspective on how you can enable such controls. That is, there are very nice community maintained DNS blacklists that we can apply via the simple act of using a community maintained DNS server. So the point is, if you want to apply those blacklists and you don't have, let's say you don't have control over your own home network or wireless network, you could just use these DNS servers, public DNS servers, and they would do the filtering for you, right? So every website you visit, you have to resolve the name to an IP, isn't it? That's what the DNS server does for us. And at that level, we can apply these block lists. We can, depending upon the profile of the user and the server they're using, we can save them from accessing phishing sites and so on. And that is completely transparent to the user. You don't need software on the device of the phone or the computer to do that. It is done on the network. It is also a way of applying censorship. Censorship is applied in the same way, so it's a double-edged sword in a way, but it is also a very useful way of filtering ads and trackers. I mean, for example, I run a DNS server at home which offers this service to everyone inside my home, even if they don't use a free operating system or a device which is completely in their control. As long as they are connected to my home network, my local DNS server will block ads and trackers and protect them from spurious websites and so on. So that's a good solution.
Yeah, this will also be it will be better to implement it on a DNS level, on a router level, than specific to a browser like operating system. Like the problem is that they could be like the students can download other browsers and then search for the content. So if it's a browser level lock, it's a router level lock, then they will not be able to access this website. Also, it could be used to log all the network that's going to all the websites they have visited. So the parents can scroll and check what all are the content that the students have consumed. So that will be a good approach to start with. Also, generating an awareness in the fraud scam things would be nice, because most of the people are getting affected because of the clickbait scams and links like Amazon, and there will be slight spelling mistakes that will end up making people trust that it's the brand thing. And if the Cyberdome can do more awareness campaigns related to scams, fraudsters, and stuff like that, and show people how to differentiate between an original and a fraud website, will also be helpful.
Yeah, we are actually doing it continuously on regular basis, but still the people are becoming victims, are losing money. So what nowadays, they are actually even the payment gateway just like different types of payment gateways are there. They are actually their services are actually taken by the fake websites. The thing has gone to that level. So they think that suppose Razorpay or some any other payment gateway is there. So when the people say think about maybe they are using somebody else, but when they see it's directly directed to their payment site. So in some cases, what we happen, we inform the payment gateway about this fraud site. They immediately block it, but still the level at which the frauds are operating has been changed. They are daily using different tactics. That's another problem that we are facing. But what my suggestion is, what Debian Linux can offer, so that as you know, ITH school, or what we now it's called KITE, Kerala Infrastructure and Technology for Education. Do you have any solution for them? Means our speaker earlier said about blocking at DNS level. That's a good solution, but the parents are not that much technically aware of it. They do not have that much knowledge. That's another. Parents are actually depending on children to get internet access. The level is that is a reality. So if we tell them about the DNS, then we have to actually give the parents a good a good technical knowledge how it actually works. Then only the solution what was suggested by the speaker is correct. I agree. That's a very good suggestion and very good solution also. But the lack of technological knowledge on the part of parents is a hindrance, or it actually prevents the parents from implying all this. So they actually prefer parental solution like Google Family. Then there is Microsoft Family Safety. Such solutions are there, but still I think regarding the DNS, configuring the DNS, I will surely get into that and try to release some videos so that parents are aware that such a solution is there and they should use it. That's a good solution that I learned from your talks.
Pramod sir, can I add a point? There is also this issue of what should be solved with technology and what should be solved outside technology, right? In the sense, even through Google Pay, people are being scammed. Like you get a request for money and then you get a phone call saying you are getting 3,000 rupees and enter your PIN or something like that. And then they pay that person instead of getting money. So they're being scammed like this. So some things are not fixed by technology. Some things have to be fixed by improving knowledge, and that can in turn help a lot. So it's not just in technology or in fake websites that people lose money. In legit websites also people lose money. So different solutions should be applied. I'm not saying technology should not be applied, but
single solution is there, not there. Regarding that, what Mr. Akshay has said, Dr. Akshay has said, to receive the money, we do not need to type in MPIN or PIN number. That's a simple solution. To receive money, we do not need any PIN or password. Just we can receive the money. Just if somebody thinks about it, it's easy. That to receive money, we do not need anything. Only to send money, we need MPIN or password. We have already released many videos, PDF, full document also has been released. Still, daily we are seeing that people are losing money. Okay.
Pramod sir, I heard that you are looking for some solution in Debian, right? Regarding the parental control. Yeah.
Yes.
There are
correct.
n number of parental control systems that are available in Linux, and especially those things are all applicable to Debian as well. But wherein certain dimensions will change, as you mentioned, like few people will look around on a website, how do I do some control, and few people will look around, some parents will look around what my students were doing or my children were doing, kind of. Then accordingly the parental control system will offer certain solutions accordingly. Especially Abbas is right now rightly pointed out, like they will be controlling the DNS system to go them to the public entirety. Okay, this site are reported that as not relevant to the public, and hence we can block that out, kind of. So if you could able to if you are interested, then probably I will share that applications list to you, so that you can have a look on that and you try that out. There are any number, Peer Guardian, and then what to say, like several things, Dance Guardian, kind of, all are, open source only, all are, Linux based solutions only. So if you are specifically looking around Linux and Debian based, there are, any number on that side. So you can search
That
around,
will be good.
yeah,
Yes, sure.
popular 10 open source, web control system, kind of parental control system. You can find that out in a Google itself. Yeah. So yeah, or else, I will share that out, the links, or probably the, which software might, suit out well for you on that side. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno.
Sir, thank you for all your concerns and prompt comments. I request Mr. Shyam Kumar AS, Security and Operations Lead at Security Advisor, also to join the discussion and share your experience around free software and Kerala rescue activities. For participants, if you have any questions related to the free software and discussion now happening, you may please unmute your mic and ask now, or else you may post it in the chat box too. Thank you.
Kamosa, Modi and Akshay, Sadiq, Navneet here. So for a beginner, there are a lot of students joined in this today's session. So they have some queries like how they can get into open source community, from where they can start contributing to the project or open source project, interacting like active project. So it would be helpful for them if you can give a basic idea or suggestions, helpful suggestions, so that they can start contributing to the open source project. I think Modi and Pramod sir and you people are well experienced in that field, so that it's all about you. Like, can give some suggestions that how they can start contributing, and what are the projects that you are currently actively engaged, etc.
Yep, I'll take the question first, and I'll let others also chip in their views. So it's very easy to get to open source development. So all you have to do is find the right project on your stack or the language that you know. So there are a lot of clusters. Like, I see this as like language projects, framework projects, tools, and products. So tools mostly on developer and non-developer tools. So these are the 4 buckets of tools you can like look at. And initially, if you're looking at a language level contribution, there are like Ruby, Python, and other languages maintained on open source. You can go into the repositories, pick up issues, and work on it. But this will be more on the higher level. So this is like a point where you can like get to after some contribution doing on the other 3 buckets. So frameworks are the next level. So in frameworks, mostly you can start by contributing on improving the documentation when you set up the repository and trying to build the stuff, and then you can also contribute by adding more tests to it or build out a feature if you see something missing on the framework. There are a lot of framework coming up nowadays, a lot in all languages. So it's easy and simpler to pick any one of them and work on it. And the third categories are tools. These are developer tools or website builders, or like a lot of other tools are there in open source. It can be a image converter, poster maker, or if you see that there is some tool that you want to make, you can also create it. And there are a lot of such projects from in Kerala itself. And the third category are open source products. These can be learning management systems or chat applications or anything else. Like, there are multiple super famous applications from Kerala. So in the third category, tools, Postwoman is one of the best example of open source project that's from Kerala itself. And on the fourth category in products, if you're looking at, there is Datwood, Tooljet, and more. All of it is from Kerala, and the authors and developers are in Kerala itself. So just find their repositories and try to set it up and then contribute. That's one option. And there is like a fifth bucket. These are like digital public goods or open source tools for the governments. And these are another space you can experiment on. There are a lot of projects like this where you can go and contribute. There is tools maintained by the e-governments foundation where there are municipality management softwares and other tools used across the country. And if you're looking at in Kerala, Corona Safe is one option. And these are specific points where you can go in and then identify a project you want to contribute on. And another step is to just Google for open source batch. So there is something called as help wanted batch. So if you look for it, you can get a list of all the repositories throughout the globe which you can pick up and contribute to. So help wanted is a badge applied by the maintainers or authors of those repositories. So they'll be wanting your help on a specific issue, which will be detailed out and self-contained so that you guys could pick it up and work on it. So these are few options which you can explore on. So I've shared a link to Corona Safe GitHub organization here. So there is a mirror also running in GitLab. You can also search for Corona Safe. You can contribute in GitLab or GitHub. So it's one option. But yeah, there's a lot of open source community in Kerala. You can also be part of it. I'll also share the links to the other repositories that I've mentioned, the Chatwood Tooljet and others. Thank you.
Can I add a point about the process? I think if anyone here has not yet installed Debian on their computer, that would be a very good starting point to start free software contributions, because once you install Debian, you install a lot of software and then you automatically are using a lot of free software, and then a lot of them you will think about new features to add, or you might find small bugs to fix. So you will report, you will look up who is developing this, and you will start developing. So it will automatically happen if you install Debian, but these can kickstart. The links that Bodhi is sharing can kickstart some of those.
You guys can look for anything, but I just shared the ones that are famous from Kerala. That's it. This is for just a understanding perspective.
Thank you for sharing the links. Pramod sir and Sadik, if you could share anything related to free software projects and stuff.
I think it's a very good platform for the students to start with, and I think that will be very helpful to them. I do not know how many people are actually, how many students are actually going to try free software, because what happens is that just take a student, if very few students will try to get into a Linux platform. So according to my experience, I actually met a student who was very good at Linux. When I asked, he was a class 10th student. When I asked why he is interested, he said just because his elder brother, who was studying in engineering, he actually put him into that passion. But the rest of his classmates are not using Linux. Instead, they are using Windows only. But I think some some motivation for the students will be the best to more coming to Linux platform. That's what from my side.
Yes, sir. Like I agree with your point. So the problem is that most of we were working with trying to improve the education and awareness among students. So one thing that we noticed is that So there is like a threshold that you need to bring up the student to, so that he continues to be on the open source track and like they are willing to contribute. And one thing that helped is that we gave them end-to-end steps on how to install the OS and set up Git. And these instructions were like videos and documentation clear, like with clear steps on how to do it. So it really helped students, because the normal documentation for these products are like for an expert or like a mid-level engineer. So the actual beginners need much more push to do it. There are a lot of open source content available everywhere, but curating this will definitely help. So if you're a developer, if you want to do this, go do these 3 steps, and it will help. So that's one thing that we found helpful.
I would also like to add that coding is not the only kind of contribution to the free software. You can just do simple things like translations. That's how I started contributing to free software. And for an example, I have posted the GNOME Malayalam translation link, and it's pretty easy to begin contribution. And one thing you will understand starting contributing to free software is that you will see how important is the quality of the contribution. So they will review the translation or code or anything, and so you will know the way how you can contribute and how it can also improve your coding skills. And
There are no more questions from the participants. So thank you all. Thank you for the fruitful discussion. I think we can wrap up the discussion for the time being. Thank you. Now I'd like to request Mr. Sambat Kumar, Technical Consultant of IC4, to propose the vote of thanks.
Hello. Hi. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining this wonderful event today. And I would like to sincerely thank Mr. Abbas Abhinav for this event to joining and to give a wonderful, speech on open source as well as his speech around free software was really great, and then that will motivate us in terms of whether we are in the right direction towards free software, kind of, as well as he just provided the or setting up how we are contributing to software in terms of how we are doing open source contributions by setting up our own host cloud and other things, so which makes us to first being a consumer of free software, and then further down we will try to consume it better, and then provide some solution on top of that, or probably contributing towards that might make an ecosystem would be a wonderful one. So that was a right way he put it out. And also thankful for all the developers who joined on this event, and to Pramod, Sadiq, and then Thomas and everyone. So I'd like to thank for this wonderful opportunity to join here and to give us some enlightenment over there themselves. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for joining us today. Keep spreading the word free software. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. All the best.